Back sometime before 2001, Microsoft was developing what they called the future of Windows. And no, I'm not talking about Windows XP. I'm talking about Windows Vista, which would be released over 5 years later. Windows Vista, codenamed Longhorn, has probably one of the most interesting development periods for any Windows operating system, and probably one of the longest. Longhorn was originally going to be released in 2003, only 2 years after Windows XP, and be a minor release of the Windows OS, rather than the major release it had in 2006. At the same time, Microsoft was also working on what they intended to be the next major version of Windows, codenamed Blackcomb. This ended up, as we all know, becoming Windows 7 in 2009. This whole plan Microsoft had can be seen by a very clever naming scheme, as in British Columbia, Canada, there's actually two large mountains, one named Whistler, which was Windows XP's codename, and the other named Blackcomb. And Longhorn, which is again Windows Vista's codename, is a bar and grill that is set up in between Whistler Mountain and Blackcomb Mountain. So to get from Whistler Mountain, you'd have to pass through the Longhorn Bar and Grill, and then you'd be at the Blackcomb Mountain. And Microsoft had this same plan for Windows, because Longhorn would be a release in between Whistler and Blackcomb, and to get from Whistler to Blackcomb, you'd have to pass through Windows Vista or Longhorn. Seems like a good plan, right? Well, it didn't really turn out the way Microsoft wanted it to. Sometime around 2004, developers of Longhorn were getting overwhelmed with the amount of features that Longhorn had, and were confused about what they were supposed to be adding to Longhorn and what they should be saving for Blackcomb. Remember that Longhorn was not supposed to have any major groundbreaking changes, as all of these would be saved for Blackcomb. But the issue is that the developers of Longhorn weren't really sure what qualified as a groundbreaking feature, and just ended up adding all of the features they had into Windows Longhorn, which is not what Microsoft wanted. And they actually decided to reset Longhorn development in 2004 and start with a clean slate because of this. And this means the final version of Windows Vista only had a development period of about 2 years. Because of the reset, the development builds of Longhorn that came before 2004 are very interesting to take a look at today, as they give us a good idea of what Microsoft actually wanted Longhorn to be. And that's what today's video is going to be about. I'm going to be taking you through 5 pre-reset Longhorn builds and give you a glimpse of what Windows Vista could have been like. So we're going to start things out. We're going to jump right in with Longhorn build 3683. Now I've already gone through the installation process and all of that, as that can be, fairly boring. And right off the bat here, you'll see that it looks very much like Windows XP Pro, as it actually has the Windows XP login screen. The only difference here is that the copyright date is changed to 2003. If this was Windows XP, it would say 1985 to 2001, and that's really your only indication on the actual boot screen that this is a Longhorn build. Now this is obviously a very large change. The entire XP welcome screen has been changed, and if you notice the time up there, it's gone now obviously, but the time up there is now like there's a smaller clock up in the top right corner of the login screen, which is very nice. Windows XP didn't have that, and something that I think is really nice, and Windows Vista didn't even have that, so something that I guess they decided to get rid of. So this build right here is the first Longhorn build to ever be leaked online. It's not the first build ever developed. There's like 2 builds before this that we know of that we don't really know that much about. This one is we can actually get working in a actual VM and take a look at it, as Microsoft would be taking a look at it back in 2003. This build does have a date of around 2003, as you can tell by the 2003 copyright date, and it is a milestone 3 build. That's what this M3 build means, and a sort of what a milestone is is okay. And there's the delayed XP logon sound. Microsoft basically, I don't know how to sort of explain this, but Microsoft goes through different phases in the Windows development life cycle, and they have basically alpha, beta, and then I think it goes into milestone 1, then they go into milestone 2 and milestone 3, and so this is a milestone 3 build. So a lot of pre-development was done before this build, and you'll notice that it closely resembles Windows XP. We have the Windows XP style pop-ups down here. The whole theme here has kind of changed. You know, it doesn't look exactly like XP, but it is very similar. The whole start menu has the same XP layout, but it is in this nice blue color, and you can't really see the subtexts of like where it says Internet Explorer and Outlook Express right here. You can't really see those without hovering over them. And I'm guessing that's a bug that they fixed by, you know, changing the actual color of this in a later build. Also of note is the very large All Programs menu here, and you go in here and you have all your same XP programs and everything like that. Running WinVer, this is going to, now you'll notice centered title text, something that Windows 8 like one of the big features, or maybe not really the big features, but one of the things that Windows 8 had was centered title text, and you can see that its roots are all the way back in here, 2003 in Windows Longhorn. You see it on the run command dialog box here as well. We still have the Windows XP Pro graphic. You see that they haven't changed this at all because it still says 2001. The only indication here is that it says evaluation copy, and it says 3683 Lab 06, and that is basically your sign that this is a lab, or well, yeah, a lab build, but an evaluation build. And we have this nice OK button right here. We have the Longhorn XP Pro thing down here. Again, these are on all beta builds. Also to mention is the nice wallpaper. Not really looking so nice at 1080p, but again, this wasn't really made for 1080p. So this new theme right here is called Plex. That is what Microsoft officially called it. And you can actually still change this to the classic XP themes, and you can see how how kind of different this is. Also of note is this new display properties panel. Now, essentially what this is using a new engine, I believe, called Avalon, and this was a new interface sort of thing that Microsoft was basically working on at the time, and it eventually merged into what we know now as the Windows Presentation Foundation. I'm not sure if that's still used today, but this is the only thing that is, like, you know, significantly changed, like besides like the whole theme thing. This is one of the major changes, and it doesn't really work completely, but you can kind of see in here what they were going for. So we can change your desktop background. You can see what I mean. It doesn't really work because we got some errors and stuff. We'll say we wanted this color. We'll use this background, and there you go. You just change your background to some purple color. Theme doesn't work. Scale and resolution doesn't really work. Nothing really works in here, but we can kind of get a glimpse of how like what they were going for when they were sort of working on this. And this probably wouldn't really be the final like if this were to go through, this probably wouldn't be the final design, but it could be very similar to it. And we can of course go to the classic XP panel and change our stuff that, or change our settings that way. And you can see that our theme is the Plex style. We could, if we wanted to, go back to the XP style, but we don't have but we're not going to do that. And you'll notice how on the XP style everything is centered to the left. On the Plex theme it's in the center. So that's something that they definitely were going for while they were making Longhorn. Something also sort of different in here is the Windows Explorer interface. This is sort of got a new design, sort of the task stuff on the left here. Everything on the right kind of stayed the same. However, we do have this new indicator saying how much free space that your drives had. I don't believe we had this in XP. And we can go in, and I don't, yeah, we'll show the contents. And what this thing up here is, this like blank space is actually a preview space. So if I were to, you know, click on a folder, if it lets me click on a folder, you'll see that it will say like more information about this folder without me having to actually, like, you know, go right click in properties. So one bug is it says everything that's a folder is 0 kilobytes, which I'm guessing is a bug that I don't really think they fixed for a few builds later on. We also have these arrows up here that you can kind of move around files, if you didn't want to use the arrow keys or just like click on them, I guess if you wanted to use arrows. One of my favorite things with looking at these builds is how that Microsoft was working with these themes and everything. And it's cool to see how that they wanted Longhorn to look, but of course it never really came to that. Now I'm looking at the Wikipedia article for this, and it's saying that a sidebar is present. However, I'm not really seeing that on the side here. I'm guessing that might be something that you have to hack in manually. Also in the Windows control panel, this is not how it normally looks. I was messing around with some settings in here earlier. This is how that it normally looks. Windows XP had this option as well, but it just kind of has a new sort of fresh design with this line kind of randomly placed up here. Most of these still relate to Windows XP. However, this My Hardware option right here, this is new, and this menu basically tells you what hardware that you have. However, it does have the old XP icons. This one, as you notice, it's kind of a new icon, but it still kind of resembles XP as well. And that is basically a brief look at build 3683. So I'm going to shut this down, and we'll move on to our next build. So I'll just show you what the again, we have the clock up here. If you didn't notice last time, this is what that it looks like. Very nice, and I really think that should be in or it should have been in Windows XP. Obviously, we have that now in Windows 8 and Windows 10 on the lock screen. But this would have been nice to have like on your sort of login screen where it would list all of your users, because obviously that's what would be here. You can see what time it is without having to log in. So that was build 3683. So next on the list is a Longhorn build 4008. And this build also has a build date of around 2003. And this was the first build that we know of that you can see here it has the same XP boot screen. But this was the first build that we know of that has a Windows pre-installation environment sort of graphically UI based installer. That was a lot of words to say with that word, but basically, if you remember back in Windows XP and every version of Windows NT before XP, you kind of have, when you're the sort of pre-setup phase, when you first put in your CD to boot from it, you get this sort of like blue looking screen that's all, you can only control it using your keyboard. It looks kind of like this. I'll have an image on screen, and after like all the files are copied over to the hard drive, then it boots into a graphically based installer. Well, what this was is essentially from the instant that you put in that install CD, it's all mouse and keyboard based. Like you can use the mouse, and it would be a lot easier to set up for the novice user that doesn't want to navigate through a bunch of menus using their arrow keys and stuff. And that obviously came with Windows Vista. And we saw that first in Windows Vista, and we're very accustomed to it today. Every Windows version since then has had that. And this was the first build to have all of that. And it looks kind of like this. This is how the whole setup process looks. There we have that Windows XP startup sound again. Something that I should mention, there is a lot of people online saying that the Longhorn builds have like their own special boot up sounds and stuff, and that's not really the case. I believe that every single build of Longhorn uses XP startup and shutdown sounds, but there's people that think that there's sort of, I guess, fan-made sounds that sound a little bit different. And they are nice sounds, to be honest, but they weren't actually officially used. So, at least not that I'm aware of. But here we are in build 4008 or 4008. You can see that right off the bat we have a new wallpaper that kind of blends in with the Plex theme a little bit better. We have it's saying that it's an M4 build right here with a nice little Longhorn, I guess, icon there. It's still calling itself Longhorn XP Professional. And here is the sidebar that they were talking about that was supposed to be in the last build, I guess, but not really. Like, I didn't really ever see that. But this is obviously, if you remember, Windows Vista has the Windows sidebar, This is the like precursor to that. It's still a sidebar, but it's not like, you know, completely transparent like the Windows Vista version is, and it's obviously like it takes up part of your view. And we can actually move this bar around, I think, so we can actually make it larger if we want to. So we can make it this large if you want to take up like almost half your screen. We can lock it there. We can minimize it so that it goes away, and then it's kind of like puts this like I guess little layer. Oh no, that's just the taskbar. No, it puts this little thing right here, and when you click that, it'll come out again. We have settings here, which brings up the old taskbar and start menu properties. You see we still have the older XP images in here. However, we do have a new enable the side. Actually, this is probably where that it was. This was probably unchecked in the other build, so that's probably where it was. And we still have, again, all of the XP, you know, images and stuff. Quick launch settings, as you can tell, have been moved up here. Let me just actually move this back, so because I didn't actually want it that large. Yeah, this is the quick launch. Like, it used to be down here, and it eventually was down here in the final Windows Vista build, but they moved it up here. And what this is like, the idea here is you can have widgets here, and you can kind of move them around and kind of rearrange them however you like. So I can kind of show you, there's a few tiles in here. So we have a user tile, which just shows the name of the person logged on. Not really that helpful, I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't really do that much. It just shows the name of the person logged on. We have a slideshow, which just is a slideshow, probably from the My Pictures folder. Windows Vista did end up having something like this. We have search, which doesn't seem to be working. We have tray icons. So this is basically all of the icons that are down here. They're calling them a legacy notification. So these are like basically your taskbar notifications that would be down here that, like, you know, pop up and tell you things. They would now pop up, I guess, up here, and then you wouldn't have to use the taskbar for anything else. I believe there's a clock. You can use that, and we get a nice Longhorn clock. Yeah, I have most frequent apps, and this is pulling everything from the start menu. So, and then obviously what you can do is you can say, well, I want, let's say I want the clock all the way on the bottom. So you can pull this and just bring it down here, and there's your clock. And do the same with, let's say I want the slideshow up here, I want the user thing up here, I want all my programs to be right here. So let's say that you want to launch Internet Explorer browser. You just click there one time. They actually did not center the title bar. This was centered on the last build. I didn't show that, but the notes that I'm looking at here, it is aligned to the left now. So kind of going back to the way it was in Windows XP. And I'm guessing that's the, actually no, that's the way that all the apps are. Actually, they aligned everything back to the left. WinVer, you'll see that it is actually calling itself Longhorn Professional. 2006, there is a new copyright date. I don't think this build is from 2006, but they're just copyrighting it to 2006. Actually, I know it's not from 2006 because it expires in 2004 or so, and the copyright is 2003. I actually don't know why it says 2006, to be honest. I guess they were... I actually have no idea. But yeah, all of the texts have been centered to the left now, and apparently they're saying that properties of files and folders are now going to be displayed in Internet Explorer window. So I'll open up, here we have the new Windows Explorer. So again, it kind of looks similar to what we had before, however this whole thing up here has been changed around. We have this nice little thing to kind of, like when you go over folders, it'll say Windows My Documents. This is some placeholder text. You have some nice images here when you go over My Music and My Pictures and video. See, so there's only, and this is actually, I should point this out, this is actually called libraries. Now you'll know Windows 7 has the same thing that's called libraries. Well, from what I heard, this feature didn't really work out the way they wanted it to, in Longhorn, so they just kind of scrap the whole thing. And again, the text is centered up here. I have no idea. Okay, so it's centered when it's full screen. Okay, so only when things are like, or not, sorry, not full screen maximized. So yeah, kind of a precursor feature to 2009 Windows 7. That's when this would come back. They actually took out the indication bar showing how full that your hard drives are. Obviously, all your folders are still here. So it says, yeah, so when you go to a folder and you click on properties, if you just saw it, opens up an Internet Explorer. And so it's kind of an HTML based thing. It's very weird looking because, yeah, so this is the older, I guess, non-Internet Explorer based window that is still used today. But this is, I guess, them trying to move away from that, move to an HTML based thing. What obviously it's not really finished because we only have one thing which you can, and we have an error, common language runtime debugging service. We'll click cancel to debug the application. We'll click cancel to abort. Alright, Internet Explorer had to close and we may need to restart the VM, as you just saw. So yeah, that's how unstable that these builds are. So if you actually wanted to test these out, as I always say, do not do it on your real computer. So yeah, that is sort of the new features of this build. Again, I'm not going to go completely in depth. There's a lot of features that we could be taking a look at, like, you know, smaller things, but I'm not going to be doing that because this whole recording is already like 40 minutes long. I don't want to have to split this up into parts. But a few other things that have changed in this build. There is a new search interface. Kind of you know, streamlines the whole thing. I'm not sure if it actually works. We can search the local hard drive for A, and we'll go and it'll find sample music and sample pictures. So I don't really think it works correctly, but it is a nice design. This would be able to search Windows help topics and things like that, so that you can, like, it'll search more things basically. And just to kind of show you Windows Explorer again, because this is kind of the I guess one of the major features besides the whole Windows sidebar. You know, how they have kind of, I guess, you know, designed this. Most of the functionality doesn't really work yet because we're supposed to be able, like, see, this is details of documents and settings. It has that kind of same Internet Explorer interface, but you're supposed to be, when you click on, or you know, click one time on a folder, it's going to supposed to show you information up here like it did in the last build. It does not do that for folders. It does that for files. And then when I click on a folder, you'll see that the title of the previous file that I clicked on gets kind of stuck up here. So, however, with the document, in like the whole libraries, that's not the case. But with everything else, I guess these were like specially made. And you'll notice they actually have some pictures in here, I think. Maybe. Yeah, they do. They have some pictures. Oh no, never mind. They're just just the same sample pictures. So yeah, I think that is going to about wrap it up for this build. This is 4008. Next is 4000 or 4015. I guess you'd say 4015. So we'll close out of this. We'll turn it off. You see, we still have the same Windows XP options to shut down your computer and everything. That will change soon in some of the later builds that we look at. Alright, so we are now going to be taking a look at Longhorn build of 4015 or 4015. This build contains a few new features. I did have a little bit of an issue while setting it up. As you saw by that error there, we do have a brand new boot screen. It's now actually calling itself Microsoft Longhorn. Obviously, we have a whole new, a newly designed welcome screen. Still with the XP sounds, though, as you just heard. And yeah, so we have a brand new, or not really a new wallpaper, just the text has changed. It says a Longhorn Milestone 5. We now have Longhorn like the XP notifications have changed. So this is what a Longhorn notification in this build looks like. This previously would look like those Windows XP beige pop-up messages down in the bottom taskbar. The theme has changed slightly. When you hover over buttons, as you see here, it kind of does this nice little effect to it. So when I like hover my mouse cursor over it and then move it away, it'll slowly fade out. So it's very nice. The start button down here has changed. The Windows logo is now a little larger. The menu still looks like a Windows XP, sort of. And the clock over here has changed. The hour is now a little larger. When we hover over it, we get the date in large text. The sidebar, the search thing actually works now. So if we want to search for, say, Google, or I should say search for A again, we press enter, it'll bring up a search results menu, and now it actually works. So it brings up everything relating to A on the computer. So yeah, I think pretty much all of this is the same up here. You know, moving everything around is pretty much the same. When you minimize it, you actually get this, or no, that's always there, I guess. Actually, no, it's not. Little arrow thing, and when you click it, you can get at some of the icons that were on the sidebar. So, for example, the clock, and you can click there, and you get the full-size clock. And Explorer just crashed, so that's great. Oh gosh! All right, it's just gonna reboot now. When you click on legacy notifications, it brings up those legacy notifications. Again, there's the clock again, slideshow, quick launch, and search. So, and if you don't want it down there, you can obviously bring up the sidebar, and there you go. It can make it really large and make the picture like almost full size. It's saying that there's a way to drag the sidebar underneath the start menu. However, I'm not really seeing that working. So let's just open up Windows Explorer here. There is a new game library. I think that is new. Nothing looks to be in here apparently, or it's just frozen again. For some reason, it's all the way over here. We'll just close. I guess it's just frozen. So yeah, here is what my computer now looks like. I don't really know why that there's this huge gap between where like the actual listings are in the taskbar, but you can see that they have some of the functionality in here working. Now before we had the document library, the music library, and the picture and video library, and we had like those little images when you clicked here. We don't have that anymore. However, we do have a new My Contacts, and it's a system folder. Nice little image up here. It might be the same in documents. Okay, no, but if we go into music, it'll... Okay, so we have, as you can see, music notes up here. Picture and video, same thing, kind of has to show you that you're in the picture library. We have a new interface to show... Okay, so it finally loaded this folder. So this is what the game library folder looks like, where we have all of our Windows XP games. I think they're still the XP games. Yeah, they look exactly the same. And we have some tasks here. We can uninstall the game, I guess, but you can see when we like kind of hover over them, you can see we get like more in-depth. We get a nicer view of the icon up here, which looks very nice, and we can get some options over here. So that's the game library. That is new as well. We also, as I was saying before that happened, we have a new like way, I guess, to show you how full that your hard drive is and how much free space that you have left without having to go in and go to properties. You see that the whole thing where the properties was in Internet Explorer, that's now gone. It's gone back to the old classic properties menu. And this, if you have noticed in the past few builds, this is green now. These things up here. So yeah, that's been there for a while. I just haven't mentioned it yet. So yeah, that is Internet Explorer, or not Internet Explorer, sorry, Windows Explorer. You see that we kind of have the same thing where the text is centered to the left when a window is not maximized, and when it is, it's centered in the middle. We will run WinVer. You see we still have Longhorn Professional. It is now identifying as version 6.0. 4015. This build actually did not let me choose my username or anything like that. It just defaults to Windows user, and it uses the administrator account. So that's something about some of these builds. When you're going through the setup process, it'll just auto go through, I guess, to get testers that Microsoft was working with kind of the fastest way. The setup is pretty much all automated. You just set what disk that you want it to install on, and it'll just do the rest for you. And I'm guessing that's because that they wanted to get this out to their testers, obviously, OEM partners, and people like that. The copyright date is still to 2003, so we are still in 2003, obviously. So let's open up the control panel here. You'll see that we have a new option called parental controls, and I believe this may have been in the last build. I haven't really been going over everything, as I've said. I'm just kind of pointing out things. I kind of have a few different web pages open and some stuff that I've written down. So I may miss a few things. Parental controls may have been, actually it may have been, let me just double check. I think it, actually yes, this build, or this feature was in the previous build, which was build 4008. So I forgot to look at that. But this is how it looks now. Again, pretty standard. Windows Vista did end up having this feature, so this is a feature that they kept. And it basically lets you set you would create a limited account. In Windows Vista, I believe they're called standard accounts, and you would basically put limits on it through this program. So yeah, that's basically parental controls. Again, that was in build 40,000 or 4008. I just forgot to mention that. So yeah, that is basically build 4015. Again, most of the major features. We're going to shut this down. We still have the XP log off menu thing here. This has not changed. So we're going to click on shut down. Still have the XP shutdown sound with the nice Windows Longhorn shutdown screen. So yeah, that is one of the things that they have changed in this build. And moving on to our second to last build, I'll just get everything up as I wait for this to I just almost said boot down, but no, we're not booting down, we're shutting down. Our next build is going to be 4051, and this build was actually released at the Microsoft PDC conference in 2003. It was, well, not really released, but kind of sent out to a few Microsoft developers. However, it did leak around that same time. And this changed a lot of things. This is a major change from what we've been seeing so far. So we're going to take a look at that, and I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to let it boot up here. You'll see we have a sort of Windows XP-esque boot screen. At least it looks more than it did before. It says Microsoft Windows codename Longhorn, and this bar is orange instead of blue like it was before. And you also notice that the Windows logo is multicolored again, so they've gone back to that. And all of the copyright information is gone, so it's very minimal. So here we are. You see we have that nice sort of fly down animation, and it kind of gives you some more back-end information as it's booting up. There's no welcome screen, just automatically takes you to the first user account. But you'll see that, what does this look like to you? It looks kind of more like Windows XP. This, like, my first kind of impression of this was like, what happens? Like, this looks kind of like something before that last build, that 4015, but this is 4051. And it is very slow. It takes a while to actually, like, I'm probably gonna have to edit a lot of this out because it's a lot of waiting. But yeah, this is called the Slate theme. This is a new theme that Microsoft was experimenting with. So you'll see that it looks kind of like Windows XP. We'll close out of that. You see, we do kind of have that whole thing from the last build. Okay, a lot of things are like kind of popping up at once. Sorry, but this down here is a newer Longhorn pop-up notification. It looks a little bit different than it did before. What I was saying here is these buttons do have that same hover animation, kind of. As you see, when I hover over it and move away, it does that same kind of thing. The sidebar obviously has changed. We now have a new style clock, and we do have not as many options here. We have this classic tray option, which brings this up. That's the classic tray down there. We have slideshow, okay, and sync. So that's everything in the sidebar. So kind of more skimmed down than it was before. Now this actually kind of looks like Windows. I think Windows, yeah, Windows Vista had this, where you would click on the clock, or maybe it was Windows 7. You would click on the clock in the bottom right, and it would bring up like a large or an enlarged version of the clock, as well as a calendar. It also has this like kind of nice little bouncing animation to kind of, I guess, get your attention like while you're doing things. Right there. There it is again. So over here, I was going to show you how similar that the start menu looks to XP. You'll see it looks very similar, almost exactly the same at first glance. And the reason I say at first glance is there's a lot of under the hood changes when you kind of go in to the start menu a little bit longer. Email, I think this actually, or no, never mind. This is still Outlook Express, but Outlook Express. So Outlook Express kind of got a new sort of design change. As you can see, I just noticed this new icon here, which kind of brought me to open the application. And this is Outlook Express 7. Outlook Express 6 was the version that was in XP. And it does have a 2003 copyright date. This build also changed the pre-installation environment graphical UI. It looks a little bit different now, kind of more like the Slate theme. As you can see here, and again, I'll put some images on screen so you can look at that. Also, this is the first 64-bit version of Longhorn that was ever made. So one thing of note here is that the word My has been taken off of all of your, well, except for some reason there's Documents and My Documents. And in Windows Vista, the final build of Windows Vista, and I'm probably going to be referencing that a lot, like, it wasn't called My Computer or My Documents, it was just called you know, Photos, Music, Computer, Documents. But yeah, for some reason we still have My Documents and Documents, which there's actually two separate folders. There's My Documents and there's Documents, which My Documents contains my pictures and my music, while Documents doesn't contain anything, and Pictures is its own folder, I think. Maybe it's not. Well, Music is its own folder. So yeah, that's kind of a sort of minor change. Yeah, pretty much the whole thing in here looks pretty much the same, except for the fact that the whole kind of color scheme has changed to the way that it was before. You know, obviously it was like more blue before. It also added Windows Media Player 9, and so we're going to take a look at that really quickly here. We'll go to Windows Media Player. Windows XP had Windows Media Player 9, but it wasn't, because they are referencing this as a change, so I don't really know, like, maybe they changed the look of it, or maybe XP didn't originally ship with Windows Media Player 9. But yeah, so it's kind of buggy, as you can see here, not really working completely, but it is there. Alright, so that is about it for Longhorn build 4051. We're going to be shutting this down now, and we're going to be taking a look at the last build. Just of note here, you'll see that they kind of have redesigned the shutdown dialog. So we'll turn that off. Now this next build that we're going to be taking a look at is build 4093. And this build came right before the development reset. where Microsoft basically scrapped everything that they've been working on and reset and started from a new code base based on Windows Server 2003 actually, and basically redesigned Windows Longhorn, from there, and kind of took the 2 years, because that was in 2004, and in 2006 Windows Vista came out. So what they basically did with this build is, I guess, that the people making Windows Longhorn knew that this dev reset was going to happen. So they basically took everything that they had and they threw it into this build. So it's really, really buggy, but it's got basically all the features. So this build is kind of a glimpse of what Windows Longhorn could have been if this development reset didn't happen. And again, the reason why that it happened, I'll just go over here and turn this VM on while I'm talking about it. The reason why this whole reset happened is because that Microsoft was kind of putting in too many features into Windows Longhorn, because again, remember that Longhorn was supposed to be a minor release of Windows, while all these major features were going to be saved for Windows Blackcomb. And basically everyone was kind of losing track of what was going to be in Longhorn and what was going to be in Blackcomb, so they just threw everything into Longhorn because that's what they were working on at the time. So a lot of these sort of, I guess, Blackcomb's only features were being put into Longhorn, and Microsoft didn't really like that, and they weren't really going to have anything for Blackcomb, I guess, so they just threw it out and restarted. So this build, as you saw, the whole startup process pretty much the same as the previous build. We do have a new wallpaper, and so it's this nice looking tree, I guess. Again, most of these wallpapers don't look the greatest at 1080p because they weren't really designed to be on a 1080p monitor. So sometimes, since this build is so buggy, you actually have to manually execute Windows Explorer, and I can actually show you what the Control-Alt-Delete screen looks like. So when I send that to the VM, this is what that looks like. You see we get that nice little animation. This could have been in previous Longhorn builds, I just haven't looked at it. And we get pretty much the same options that would have been in Windows Vista. So we'll just click on Start Task Manager, and we have to run Explorer. Okay, so I like how everything somehow breaks on video, but I wanted to show you... Okay, so this is new. There's a Longhorn tab in here. But I wanted to show you that the icons look like Windows Vista icons, but for some reason I can't because they're just not working. Well, I guess some of them are. You can see that this icon, these icons in here look more like the Windows Vista icons, but all these icons over here and the icon for the recycle bin look exactly like the Windows Vista icons, like the final ones that shipped with Windows Vista. So now there are a few new options in the control panel. We do have some there's this new thing, which I don't know what it is. I guess it's just a placeholder for something. There is text-to-speech. Now, Windows Vista had or has speech recognition, and basically it will take your voice and whatever you're saying, translate into text. This kind of has the same thing, but we're not really going to be able to take a look at it because we need audio drivers, and I don't think we have audio drivers for my microphone for this, and I couldn't get VMware Tools. VMware Tools has a hard time installing. There's also a new Windows Movie Maker program. Now you'll notice that there are no programs installed on the actual computer, and this is because, from what I kind of read about, is Microsoft was kind of planning to have separate versions of what would become Windows Vista, and they actually did this. Obviously, they had Home Basic, Home Premium, Business, Ultimate, Enterprise, all that, and they were going to have it so they could create these versions and only have certain applications installed on those versions, I guess. And this version was I guess a really minimal one, or kind of the base with no applications installed, and that's kind of why there's no applications on here. Here is the Windows Explorer, just to give you a brief look at this. For some reason, the CD drive now identifies as a local disk. So this is the CD drive. This is my VMware audio stuff. Don't know why it's like identifying as a as a separate drive, like it's a hard drive. And then we have this random volume over here where when I click on it, actually this is the floppy drive, because when I double click on this, it asks you to put a disk in a drive A. So that's a bug, as you can tell, because the drives are like the optical drives and the floppy drives are identifying as hard drives. All of this is pretty much the same. I know that I'm kind of going fast because I kind of want to keep this video under a certain length of time. We have the system folder, which is the mail icon for some reason, and brings up a random string of text and says cannot find server. So I don't know what was going on there. All items brings, so these are new folder icons, which don't have anything in them. So, yeah, documents, this stuff kind of changed. Documents, music, photos, and videos. So they kind of tried to consolidate photos and videos throughout this whole thing. That didn't happen in the final version of Vista. Here we actually have this new thing where you can actually like choose the views of your files, because this is the photos folder. So they made it easy to change like the view. So like say you want, okay, this is the large view, this is the tile view, this is the sort of like gallery view, and this is the list view. Now there's no files in here, so I can't really show you what it looks like, but that's kind of what that was. They were experimenting with that. Contacts, a new contacts user interface. Documents, again, we have that. Music, same little banner right there. You can actually still, even though there's like not anything in these, like in the accessories folder, you can actually still execute most applications. Like CMD, for example, still works. And we'll do WinVer. You see we have a new, I don't think that I did this in the last build, but you see we have a new banner up here. 4093 6.0 2005. This is a 2004 build. Obviously it is because the reset took place in 2004. We can still run like Notepad, like all this stuff is still here. Notepad actually got a new icon, as you can see, but it's still, you know, the same Notepad. So there's also a few new versions of certain applications. Now I mentioned that there's a new version of Windows Movie Maker, and there's actually I have to run this command here to access it. I should mention that I did not get sound working in this build, as I got it working on all previous builds. The sound driver did not want to install for whatever reason. So we're gonna have to, now it says that these errors come out, but it is normal, or it's not really normal, but the application is still usable. So just go through there, and wow, here we go. I've actually not taken a look at this before, but this is the new, we can't actually move the window around. It's kind of stuck in this fixed position. But here is Movie Maker 3.0, and yeah, you see we can barely do anything. But yeah, here's the very minimal about menu. Movie Maker 3.0 build 0000 2000 to 2003. This looks very different than the Windows Vista Movie Maker. Basically, the Windows Vista Movie Maker was like very similar to the XP Movie Maker. It was just like it had the ability to render video in HD, and that was about it. That was about like the only difference, and sort of the like design change. But this is very different. This is kind of like a whole different sort of editor. You see some of this stuff is not working, like trim is not implemented, but you can see some of this stuff actually works, or doesn't work, it just quits. So yeah, we can kind of take a look at what this interface looks like, but actually like the functionality isn't really going to work that well. You see we have some tests, and it's still using the MSWMM file, so, or the file extension, so that's still there. And that was used up until Windows Live Movie Maker. I think it changed to MSWLM LMM. I'm not sure on that, but I think that they changed the file extension on that. But yeah, I don't think we can actually do anything because it just crashes the program. But again, we can take a look at the design of it and what it would look like. So yeah, that is Movie Maker 3, and I did not. There's a test publish wizard. Okay, here's some like options for, I guess, rendering video. We have some bitrate options. Let's hit OK, and it crashes. There's just test menu, play timeline with media UX, publish timeline. Yeah, everything just like basically crashes it. But that is Windows Movie Maker 3.0. The next thing, there is actually a new version of Windows Media Player. It's called MX Player. I don't know why they changed the name. It still is called Windows Media Player, and it looks very simple. It's just a simple looking media player. UI plugins down here. I don't think any of this works. Okay, playlist works, but it doesn't do anything. And okay, so we can have up to 3 solid colors, not just one. You can have up to 3 solid colors on your media player, so that's nice. Playlist, yeah, that's what that does. And UI plugins, it doesn't do anything, and it crashes the application when you click that button. So, and another thing, another application that's back. If you remember, we took a look at that display setting in build 3683, I believe, where it was the like nice Avalon UI. It was all changed and everything. They took that out in the next build, like immediately in the next milestone 4 build. That was gone, and well, it's back in this build, and again, that was just them throwing everything back. So this is C Windows System 32. Alright, I didn't mean to press enter, but that's okay. And it's LH Desk. I'm saying Longhorn Desk. And this is it. It's not actually mapped to when you right click and go to properties. This still brings up the older XP menu. But this is here, and it's actually changed. Like the design of it has changed. It's really odd text on the side here. We can adjust the screen refresh rate, and it brings up this little thing here, and we're at 1 hertz. That's some great refresh rate going on. 1 hertz. It's glorious. We'll go back. We can change the background and AI. So when we change the background, it brings up the classic thing. Scaling factor. I don't know why this keeps getting brought up. I guess it's just to show you what you're doing, I guess, or like you're in options. We can change the resolution. We got this button over here that's no idea what it says. We're going to click it, and it changes the resolution, and then it crashes. So let me just change that back really quickly here. Yes, it did actually change the resolution, so that's nice. We'll run that again. We can change the screensaver. It brings up this. There's actually only 3 screensavers. There's blank, Longhorn, and photo and video screensaver. Themes and appearances brings up the themes and appearances. Change the number of colors used on your display. Brings this up. We can go 32 and 16-bit. Presentation settings. This is for looks like dual monitors. And this looks like for if you were giving a talk or a sort of presentation of some kind, you could turn off all notifications, keep the screen or keep the screen on during my presentations, so like it wouldn't turn off. And advanced display setting is not implemented yet. So yeah, that is the updated Avalon display settings. There's also a new Avalon power settings option. I'm guessing this would be for laptops. We can probably still access it. It's in the same folder. It is power CPL. Yeah, so this looks like it's for laptops. Actually looks very, very similar to the power options in Windows Vista. You can check battery power. It crashes. The Windows Vista one obviously doesn't do that. You can change your power plan also makes it crash. That was something that was in Vista. Change what happens when I press the power or sleep button. When I press the power button, shut down system Windows controls, combo box items standby, recommended. Shut down, ask me what to do, or nothing. So you can change like what the power button does, like the physical power button on your actual like physical computer. That obviously was in Vista. And adjust the screen brightness. Doesn't do anything whatsoever. And we have advanced power options. We'll show the power meter. Nothing. So yeah, I'm guessing all these features don't really work completely. And the last Avalon thing, I know that I'm kind of going on and on here, but I do kind of want to show you all these Avalon programs. There is a wireless presentation, and this kind of goes into what it was saying about keeping the screen on during your presentation in the not in the Power CPL, but in the app that we took a look at before that. This is WPW Wizard, and this is wireless presentation. What this actually allows you to do is connect with up to 20 other people through a wireless connection, and you can have a wireless presentation. So you can. It doesn't actually work, but you see that they do have the option kind of laid out here. This actually, well, obviously this never made it into Vista, but this is one of those cool features that would have been in Longhorn if it was actually like there, like you know, if they didn't decide to cut off development. So that is the wireless presentation. Not really much to say about that. Alright, so Windows Explorer just crashed, and I think that is going to pretty much be the end of this build. Naturally, everything has to end when, you know, it crashes. Yeah, that is going to end it off for this video. This video is about 2 hours long, so I have a lot of editing to do. I'm going to try to make it watchable. I don't really want to cut this up into 2 parts because I want to have the second part to be for the, you know, post reset builds. But if you guys like this video and if you want to see that second video, definitely be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Again, this was something that I kind of got the idea for, you know, a couple days ago, and I just figured why not, you know, make a video on this, because it seems like something that, you know, it was definitely fun to make, and it just seems like something that you guys would like, because, you know, you always want me to make Windows Beta build tutorials. And this is something a little bit different, but it's still taking a look at some interesting Longhorn builds. So, yeah, definitely give me your feedback down below. Like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more videos in the future. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.